Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Mark Langtry and I'm the Head of Science and Sport here at Explorium, and I'll be your host. The Engineers Ireland STEPS programme is a non-profit outreach programme that promotes interest and awareness in engineering as a future career to school students through a portfolio of projects. STEPS is supported and funded by Science Foundation Ireland, the Department of Education and Skills, and industry leaders Arup, ESB, Intel and TII. And today the STEPS team at Engineers Ireland are celebrating International Women's Day, and I'll be chatting with Denise Gaule. This is our third video in our International Women's Day video series as part of STEPS Engineers Week. Denise's day job is working as a mechanical design engineer with Malone O'Regan in Waterford, and in her spare time she's an All-Ireland camogie champion with Kilkenny. Denise studied business and worked as a fund accountant for a few years before going back to Waterford Institute of Technology to study building services engineering. Denise's 57-minute penalty goal sealed a victory for Kilkenny in the 2020 Liberty Insurance All-Ireland final. I'm going to pass you over to Denise and she'll chat to you about how the challenges on the pitch have helped prepare her for a career in engineering.
Hi, my name is Denise Gaule. I'm a Building Services Engineering graduate and I'm a Mechanical Design Engineer with Malone O'Regan Consultant Engineers in Waterford. Today I'm just going to give you a brief introduction into what Building Services Engineering is and my journey into engineering. I'm firstly going to start with my road to engineering and how I became a Mechanical Design Engineer. So I done my Leaving Cert way back in 2009. Like many, I was unsure what I wanted to do after school or what career I wanted to pursue. I decided to study business for 4 years in WIT. I was working as a fund accountant for a couple of years, so you could say I took the long road to engineering. I suppose I got the itch to go back and do building services engineering. So I went back to WIT, studied building services engineering for 3 years. Graduated in 2019 and I've been working with Malone O'Regan ever since. How I became interested in engineering initially is that my father is himself a mechanical engineer, and I would have got an opportunity, I suppose, to do a lot of work with him, particularly through my time in college. Kind of really sowed the seed, I suppose, in my head, and I got a feel and understanding for the industry and the type of work involved, and it was really a deciding factor in my decision to go back. I just want to touch on a few challenges that I thought I would face going back to college and going into engineering. A bit of background just on myself first. I suppose I've played camogie with Kilkenny for over 10 years, so I was well adverse to all sorts of challenges on the pitch, and I found it really got me prepared and excited, I suppose, to take on different challenges that engineering and that going back to study engineering would bring. The biggest challenge I suppose I thought I faced going back to college and studying engineering would have been that I hadn't done honours maths for the Leaving Cert, and I suppose I was just worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the course, but I took it upon myself. I arranged to meet one of the lecturers down in WIT, and it was probably the best thing I done, to be honest, because he really reassured me, look, like anything, once you put in hard work you'll be well able, so it really put my mind at ease. The other challenge I suppose, as you can see from the photo there, those were the two boys in my class, so only 3 of us graduated, myself being the only girl. I suppose when I started there would have been 10 or 15 of us in the class, so I was the only girl, but to be honest it kind of made me work a bit harder and I kind of relished it really. But look, the lads were great, I didn't find it any disadvantage at all. So we got on great and it was brilliant. I suppose, look, the challenges were there, but like anything, the bit of hard work you're well able to overcome. Just to give you a bit of background now, I suppose, on what building services engineering is. So it's the design and installation of mechanical and electrical systems. It's the systems within a building that bring it to life. It's really, I suppose, you're probably all sitting at home or somewhere where you're nice and comfortable. When you think of how that is, it's nice and warm, there's heating on, there's adequate ventilation. I suppose it's, when people think of buildings, they think of probably architects and builders without a thought maybe into how all the systems within the building are working. It's really the systems that bring it to life. When I finished college, I went into the mechanical side of things. So in mechanical, you'd have your HVAC, which would be your heating, your ventilation, your air conditioning, your water services systems, drainage and waste systems. You'd have fire protection, along with other items there would be LPHW, your low pressure hot water for heating, you might have your natural gas, your medical gases, depending on the type of project it can vary so much, but that's basically what it is. It's just the design and installation of these systems, really. Just have a look at the degree itself and what kind of aspects we would have touched on in college. So I suppose we would have done a lot of design calculations of the different systems and understanding of how the design applies to the practical application of the various systems. There was a lot of project-based learning and site visits where you can get to see the in-use and the installation of the different systems. So it wasn't just, I suppose, all classroom-based learning. We done a lot of 3D Revit modelling and AutoCAD drawing. So I suppose I wouldn't have come across the 3D Revit before college. It was great to see how, I suppose, your design fits into a building model. There's a lot of coordination. It's not just as easy as putting something in and thinking it works. There's a lot of coordination with the building structure and other services. So it was great to see, I suppose, the design of something come to life. We also would have done a lot of practicals and labs. So maybe like many of you, I was in an all-girls school. We didn't really have the choice of doing woodwork or tech graphics, tech drawing. So it was something completely new to me. I mean, we done a lot of block work, carpentry and plumbing practicals. It was something I enjoyed. I enjoyed the hands-on aspect of it, particularly the plumbing, just putting things together, I suppose, and see how everything fits. So look, there is plenty of variety in the course. It's a mix of classroom-based learning, practical is the labs. I found it completely different to business, a lot more, I suppose, variety and interest. So I couldn't recommend it highly enough, to be honest. Next, I just want to talk a bit about where I work and what kind of work I do on a daily basis. So as I mentioned previously, I work with Malone O'Regan Consultant Engineers. I've been there since I've graduated nearly 2 years ago now. It's a great company to work. I mean, the exposure that I've been given to different projects and the experience I've got on the various systems has been great. Just to touch on, I suppose, we have a civil and structural department. We also have an M&E department, which is mechanical and electrical, which I am a member of. So there's great in-house meetings and coordination meetings between us all. And just to look at, I suppose, why I love what I do and why engineering to me is the best career. The variety of work is brilliant. I mean, you're working on large to small projects, new builds to retrofits. Every day is different. Like you go into a day with your things in mind to get done, but you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there could be a design issue on a job you're working on that you might have to solve. There could be a coordination issue on a site that you might have to run through with contractors. So it's brilliant, the variety of work. It really keeps you on your toes. The days go so fast. Sometimes you need more hours in the day to be able to deal with everything. But look, there's also great variety in design work. I mean, you're designing so many different systems. It's brilliant. You're not only doing design calculations, I should say, you're also putting layouts onto pages, drawing in details, seeing how everything works out. It's also a lot of documentation, this side of it that people might not necessarily think of, but you're not all day sitting at a desk doing calculations. You also have to prepare the documents and specifications. You're preparing equipment schedules, pricing documents, so there's a lot of documents to go along with every project. We also get a great variety of going to site, you're carrying out site surveys, you're doing site visits, site meetings, so there's a lot of interaction with clients and contractors as well as vendors and suppliers of the various equipment that you're hoping to specify on jobs. I mean, there is a a big teamwork aspect to it all, which was great, because I suppose being from a sporting background, teamwork is probably one of the biggest things for me. I suppose because we have a mechanical and electrical team there's a lot of coordination between us, and as well with the civil structural side. So it's great. Like, I suppose you're mixing with so many different people. It's brilliant to learn from each and every one of them. The job satisfaction, I suppose, it's brilliant, because you're seeing a job from start to finish. You're starting one day with a design on a piece of paper, and maybe a year down the line you're standing in front of a fully operating building with all your systems in place. The building's operating perfectly. So look, it's brilliant job satisfaction. I just want to touch on a few projects that I've been lucky enough to work on since joining Malone Oregon. So you can see there Glanbia and Danone, two massive multinational companies. So we do a lot of work in the food and beverage industry, and the requirements differ from every project depending on the services required, the process taking place in the project, the area of the building. So whether it's production facility or R&D, research and development facility, or admin office spaces. So the variety on every project is great. We also do a lot of work for the HSE, and we're just, I suppose at the moment, doing a lot of emergency work. So we're just finished up. I was working on a COVID test centre there, and we're also doing emergency department extension down in Wexford Hospital at the moment. So look, it's great. That just shows a bit of the variety, I suppose, and a few of the major projects that I would have been working on. Some advice to consider for yourselves, I suppose, it's just not to limit your options. I mean, be open to the different challenges, be open to new challenges that engineering might seem to bring. I mean, look outside of the norm. When I was in school, it was do nursing, do teaching. There wasn't a second thought to engineering, and it might be a male dominated industry, but there's always room for women to thrive, and I think that's the biggest thing. I think it is somewhere that women can thrive. Look, it's time now. I suppose you have time to do research, look up what aspect of engineering might pique your interest. I'm sure after listening to a few of these with different areas to go into. Building services is only a small part of it. There's so many different aspects to engineering, each as interesting as each other. So that'd just be my advice, really. It's just to broaden your horizons, I suppose, for the next 2 years you have, and just consider engineering. At the end of the day, it's a brilliant career, and there's plenty of room for women to do brilliantly within it. To finish up by saying to remember that no challenge is too great. I've been through a lot of challenges and a lot of tough days, both in the office and on the hurling field, and come out on the other side. Look, it's just about getting yourself outside of your comfort zone, because that's when great things happen. I just want to say thanks to everyone who listened today, and it's great to be given the opportunity to speak about building services engineering, and hopefully this has helped to tweak your interest in it, and you might, a few of you, think or consider building services when you're filling out the CAO in a couple of years' time. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Denise. I now have 2 questions for you sent in by our transition year students. The first question is, have you ever found yourself in the situation where you were the only female?
Yeah, I suppose, as I touched on earlier, I was the only female in my course. I mean, we did share a couple of lectures, probably with architectural and civil structural, and they had 1 or 2 other girls. So look, as I said earlier, I didn't find it any disadvantage. I mean, in work it was kind of the same. When I started in the M&E department, I was the only female. We now have another female who was an AutoCAD technician, but I was lucky enough that one of the directors of the company was female, and I suppose it was great to have someone like that as a role model and someone to look up to, and see someone at the top, someone with a female at the top, even more importantly, was great. And look, I didn't find it any disadvantage, to be honest. As I said earlier, I kind of relished the challenge, and yeah, look, that's it really.
And the second question, why should girls consider engineering?
The easy answer, I suppose, is why shouldn't they consider engineering? There's no reason why it shouldn't be considered for all girls. I mean, there's so many different areas that people can be interested in, so many different opportunities to work in different sectors and different types of engineering. I mean, there's so much variety. It's an exciting industry to be a part of. I mean, girls are well able to apply themselves to the most difficult of tasks, so there's no reason at all why girls shouldn't consider.
Thanks, Denise, for talking to us and sharing with us how you overcame those challenges to now have a successful career in engineering, and best of luck to the Kilkenny team this year. Again, the STEPS team would like to thank our sponsors Science Foundation Ireland, the Department of Education and Skills, and industry sponsors Arup, ESB, Intel and TII. And again, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe to the Engineers Ireland YouTube channel to watch all of our STEPS International Women's Day video series.